Everybody, welcome to the Dencun hard fork live stream on the Goerli testnet. So we're going to watch the Dencun fork happen today on the testnet. This is the Goerli testnet's last hard fork, so we're really excited to say goodbye to we're sad and excited to say goodbye to Goerli. I am Nix. I'm from ETHStaker. This call is jointly hosted by kind of ETHStaker and Ethereum cat herders, even though some of Ethereum cat herders couldn't be here because of the time zone. This time zone is actually really good for Australians. We're really excited about that. It's kind of pulling a different portion of the devs into this call today. So today we're going to go over sort of what Dencun is going to look like, what it means for stakers, what it means for the network, what upgrades are involved, what EIPs are coming in it, and what the sequence of upgrades for the various test nets and the mainnet is going to be. So really quick, I just want to go over like what is Goerli. Goerli is, anybody can correct me. Goerli is before my time even. So Goerli launched in September of 2018. Maybe somebody in this call from Berlin is a better person to talk about it. But it is has been a long running testnet. It was the first community built testnet with cross-client functionality. And it's now being replaced by Haleski. So Haleski is now the kind of catch-all for people who are going to be running things on testnet. And does anybody want to like sort of explain what the difference is between like all of the test nets that we have right now and like what which test nets are going to be used for what? Maybe Remy is good for that. So sorry. Remy is our testnet guy. Maybe Remy, you can give an overview of like what the difference between like Sepolia, Haleski, and Goerli is, and like why Goerli is being deprecated.
Let me just say that Goerli was like a great testnet that happened that started a few years ago, but then we moved on and we created two additional testnet recently. Sepolia, which is meant for dApps developer, people doing smart contract development. So if you are doing that kind of work, you should try and use that network, Sepolia. But if you want to test running a validator, you should go ahead and use the new testnet called Holsky. And so those are the two main use cases for these new testnet. I believe there's a few other ones, but you should be good with keeping those use cases in mind.
Cool. And ETHStaker supports solo stakers, and we have a faucet in our Discord channel. So if anybody wants to set up a validator, they can go in the ETHStaker Discord channel and get the bot that Remy built to make the deposit for you. So we're gonna do the Dencun fork today. We're gonna talk about what it is. Tim, I see that you joined the call. Do you want to are you able to give like a quick overview of what Dencun is? You don't really have to go into the EIPs in depth, but like what the large picture is for Dencun. Maybe he can't hear me yet. So we'll just quickly go mute, unmute.
Tim's connection was messing up. I think it might be fixed now, Tim.
Was the question for me?
Yeah. Tim, do you want to maybe give an overview of what Dencun is and like what the large picture is, not necessarily go through all the EIPs in depth, which I actually hope that we'll do in the mainnet call. But sort of what the big picture is for Dencun. Why is Dencun such a big deal?
Yeah, so I mean the obvious thing is the blobs. So EIP for 4 proto dank sharding, that is the main feature I think people are waiting for. And the idea there is that it provides layer twos a way to store data on Ethereum that's ephemeral. So right now, when L2s charge transaction fees to users, most of that cost is just the cost of posting data back on L1. And L2s don't need the data on L1 forever. They only need it for a couple days to a couple weeks. But when they post it on L1 right now, they post it forever. So they have to pay a huge storage cost for that. And so with EIP 4844, we're basically introducing data storage on Ethereum, which after a couple weeks gets pruned from the network. And so we're able to price it much cheaper than we price this permanent storage that L2s use. And because this is like the main component of L2 transaction fees for users, having cheaper data storage allows L2s to reduce the fees for their end users. So that's like the biggest change coming in, and that's what we've been working on for almost 2 years at this point. And then there's a bunch of other smaller changes that are coming in the fork as well. So one is I'll just go through like the EIPs in order, but like 1153 introduces new opcodes that allow you to store data on Ethereum, but have it cleared at the end of a transaction. And because this data is never written to disk, it's also cheaper than data that's like persisted after the transaction is over. So that's another interesting one for application developers. 4788. So this exposes the beacon root in the EVM. So right now, there's no way to like trustlessly make proofs about the beacon state on chain. So this enables it and allows applications to sort of make proofs against beacon chain state. 444 we talked about. mcopy, another neat new opcode that allows memory copy in the EVM. Another big change with Dencun is EIP 6780. So this basically prevents self-destruct from deleting an actual contract unless the contract was created and deleted in the same transaction. A whole host of reasons why we want to do that. But this basically, if you call self-destruct on a contract that already exists, it'll send all the money to the address that's targeted as the recipient, but it will actually leave the contract there. It won't self-destruct the actual contract, again, unless it's been created in the same transaction that it's destructed in. And then we have a couple beacon chain EIPs, which is a new thing. So now we have actual EIP numbers for changes on the beacon chain. So the next 37044, this makes signed exit messages by validators valid forever, and it improves some trust guarantees for some constructions where the validator might not be the same person who has the withdrawal credentials. And in the past, they would like pre-sign an exit message to deal with that, but then it would expire after a couple forks. So this allows them to stay valid forever. 745, I'll be honest, I'm not sure what it does beyond the actual title. So it increases the max attestation inclusion slots. Maybe an consensus layer dev can walk us into more detail of what that actually is. 7514. So this changes how many validators can be activated every epoch. So it adds a cap on it to limit the validator growth on mainnet. And then the last one, 7516, it just adds a base, an opcode to get the base fee for blobs, just like we have for the base fee on the EVM. So that's everything that's in the fork. There's an EIP that details all of this, 7569. It's a meta EIP that lists all of these and links out to all the actual specs.
And if anybody wants to go see that page with the EIPs, the EIP website has that meta link. There's also a Hanny set up a redirect from the eStaker website, estaker.cc/Dencun, and it goes straight to that meta EIP. And you can read all of those yourselves. And you know, it's always helpful. I like to ChatGPT will just tell you what those are in plain language, each one of them. It's great. I'm glad to see, Tim, I was a little nervous at the beginning of that you knew all of those off the top of your head and that you weren't reading them. So
I was definitely reading them, yeah.
Okay. So Does this mean anything for solo stakers? Should solo stakers be concerned about like maybe data availability coming to Ethereum? Does it increase the hardware requirements or the network requirements that are going to be required of their machines?
It increases the storage requirements by a fixed amount and will increase the bandwidth usage. I see there's a couple Peku devs on the calls. I don't know if well, Peku and Exeku devs, I guess, but I don't know if either of you want to maybe walk through like some numbers to give a rough idea.
Given that Enrico hasn't put his camera on, I'm guessing that that's me. I think it's going to take up about an extra 100 gig of storage for Goerli. That was the number up to that we kind of computed. I'm not exactly sure about the bandwidth requirements. I'm being across that bit, but about 100 gig of data, which is not terrible, and hopefully that should be pretty consistent across the different networks.
So theoretically, people should still be good with their 2 terabyte hard drives that a lot of them are running right now.
I'm very hopeful because I just got a node, so I don't really want to upgrade weeks after I made it.
York, go ahead.
Do you have a sense of how much of Ethereum state is actually layer 2 rollups? That is this a trade-off where we're saying maybe 50 to 100 gig extra in blobs, which are ephemeral, but then state might grow more slowly because rollups are moving over to blobs instead of just storing it forever?
It's not really state. The rollups, as far as I know, store the stuff in history. So
Okay.
as call data. So that's why we've seen the history grow so exponentially over the last couple of months, couple of years. So yeah, the history won't grow as quickly, hopefully, because people will not send these really, really big transactions that just contain data that you have to store forever. So the state growth will not be impacted by it, as far as I know.
Right,
But
the
history growth will be, and that is quite significant.
Okay, so that's the trade-off, right? So if I'm a solo staker, I'm with a 2 TB drive. Yeah, I'm giving up maybe an extra 50 to 100 gigabyte on blob storage, but on the other hand, my history storage will grow more slowly. So hopefully, fingers crossed, right? So it might actually be a net saving in the end.
Over time, it should be, right? Because the 100 gig is sort of fixed, whereas the history grows forever.
Right.
So real quick, after we're gonna watch the fork, because the fork I think is in 4 minutes, right? So after the fork, Hudson has some quiz questions that we have for y'all. And he said the questions are hard, so we'll see. He said they're all pre-2017
and before.
Okay, and then we'll also talk about a learn to earn Dencun quiz from Ethereum cat herders and go over some things afterwards. But I think right now is Perry in the call?
Yes, I'm here. Hey.
Sweet. Do you had like something to display during while we watch, right?
Yeah.
Sweet. And also actually, Thorsten, let me tag you in real quick. Terrence posted something today that I wanted to quickly go over for anybody who is watching about how Goerli might not be representative of how mainnet goes because of low participation. Do you want to explain why that's the case and sort of what the situation is and will be post fork?
Sure. So validators on Goerli don't have a ton of money tied up. Ideally, the Goerli token should be valueless. Right? We're not going to get into why that is not the case. So we have about 84% participation right now. This is actually up because the Ethereum Foundation prodded some people to say, spin your validators back up. This was lower before. If certain people haven't updated their software, they will fork off during the hard fork, and we may actually drop below the 2/3 threshold we need for finalization. 7 slots to go, 6, so we're gonna make it fast. The good news is that the network will continue. So even if we're below finalization, Ethereum will stay live. It's one of its features it has.
Sweet. So, yeah, if things don't go perfectly on this, it's expected, not necessarily a reflection of the work that's been done on Dencun, but more of the fact that Dencun isn't or Goerli isn't like a very incentivized place to be running validators.
Exactly.
Sweet. So, yeah, do you want to
Can you
explain
guys
what
see
we're
my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. So we have a bunch of nodes running here. There should be one of every client, and we can cycle through them later on. But for the meantime, we also have our Grafana dashboards up. So this is a basic overview. So we're able to get the view of a lot of nodes at the same time. We also have Satu running on the network, which is like a peer-to-peer monitor. And this is going to help us figure out how block propagation statistics are looking, and this will get filled out once blobs are submitted on the network. And we also have a fork choice viewer. So the fork choice viewer would, if it loads, will show us what the nodes are voting on. And of course, we have the classic block explorers, Dora, and Beacon Chain. So we have quite a few places to look at. Ooh.
The fork has happened.
The fork has happened, and we got the first block after the fork.
All right.
Looks like these two are fine. This one looks fine too. You can see the blob going on here. And it's syncing the blocks after. Nice. Okay, now we just have to wait for a couple of slots to see what's going on.
So what are people's bets on participation here?
I think it's going to be low because we also see errors on our node.
You said you see errors? Uh-oh, 45.
Yeah, some of our
So while we're just waiting for that, I wanted to highlight one small EIP that's in this, and Tim mentioned it's the one that means that signed exit messages remain valid forever. This is actually quite meaningful for solo stakers if they don't necessarily hate their kids. This means you can sign an exit message, put it somewhere safe, wherever you want it, in such a way that your heirs can understand where it is, and then they can just submit it through Beacon Chain, for example, and the ETH will go into a designated hardware wallet or something, and then they can have access to it, and the validators don't need to be running anymore.
And that's an improvement, because right now anybody who set up before like the merge, after Dencun, their exit message is then invalid, right? Because is it 2 forks right now?
It's 2 forks, and we're doing it back to Chapella. So anything signed since the merge, which was September 22, right? Am I confused where we are? September 22, I want to say. Anything signed since merge will remain valid forever.
That's huge, because I know a lot of...
Sorry to interrupt you, but we got the first blobs. I send it in the chat if you guys want to take a look. It was in slot 7,400,013.
We already have like 45 blobs. Almost 100 already. Well, that's looking good. Most of them still have 0, but we're slowly getting in more and more blobs, and you can see how long they're taking to propagate through the network as well.
What was the title, the top right title? It was blob sidecars ingested?
Yes, that's how many. So this is what we have running as our peer-to-peer monitor. And this tells us how many events we've ingested and what the dashboard's based out of. I think the more impressive ones are the attestations ingested. So we're ingesting 52 million attestations just in the last hour into the database and then processing everything to get this dashboard up.
Nice. Do we know what participation is looking at like yet?
Not yet. Give it a few more slots.
Mm-hmm. But at least the number of proposals looks on first glance to be picking up.
We seem to be having a goodly number of missed blocks, so it'll be interesting what we are. In case we do miss finalization, this will be a great opportunity. I think it's the first time since Medasha we would have a long-running non-finality event on a public testnet. Always a good chance to see, how does CPU pressure, memory pressure, and so on behave for the different clients as it goes through weeks of non-finality, if that's where we are. Maybe if that happens, we can also explain what non-finality is and how Ethereum deals with it.
Perry, quick question. Do we have a fog monitor running?
Yes, we do. But it doesn't have too many nodes on it. That's the issue. We just have these. I think this is a nicer kind of fog monitor because you're still able to see what the head slot is on all of them. I think our Grandine node might not have been updated in time, or we'll have to see what's going on with Grandine. But otherwise, everyone looks to be on the same slot.
Okay, and we look to be one slot away from the first epoch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so just eyeing it, that will be interesting with participation. So do we have a volunteer to explain what non-finality is and how Ethereum comes back to finality in such an event?
I know everybody here is capable.
Exactly. All right, Remy, you want to take that one?
What is likely some of the issue is I think everyone's now troubleshooting the large chunk of validators who have not updated.
Right.
Nolan, do you want to take this?
Okay, so non-finality, we're below 66% of the validators are active. In Goerli's case, because it's valueless and it doesn't really mean anything, it seems that this is a big success. And I mean, we have bad participation rate, but that's just because people haven't upgraded their nodes for the hard fork. Now we're going to get to see the inactivity leak in the non-finalizing status where we're below 66%. And basically all the other inactive validators are going to leak down until the active validators reach 66% and they can come back into control.
Right, exactly. So this is an escalating leak. So everybody who's offline now gets hit with a non-finality penalty, the inactivity leak. This is quadratic in nature, and we can quibble about, the math. Is it quadratic? Is it not? In the end, good enough to say it is, meaning it escalates. It gets worse over time. The longer you're offline, the harsher this penalty. We calculated this for mainnet as part of the "we are afraid of a supermajority" client math, and we calculated that it might take for current mainnet about 39 days to come back. Here it looks like we have 35% participation, so it might be a little faster, maybe on the order of 31 to 34 days. If nobody comes back online, right? If everything that stays offline, that is offline now, stays offline, it might take about a month for all of those validators to bleed down to where their effective balance is so low that what they're voting no longer matters, and the ones that are online have over 2/3 again. So if people come back online, that's going to be a lot faster. If they all stay off, then we may actually see a prolonged non-finality event on Goerli now.
So yeah, something I want to point out with this is that with any testnet fork like the one we're doing in this call, like everyone said, there's going to be people that don't have the, there's no incentive to really run a testnet much of the time, especially with something like Goerli. Goerli was a proof of authority network, from what I understand. And what that means is that if you are active on the network, you don't actually get a reward in the form of Goerli Ether. That's dealt through a different way through the proof of authority system. So when we look at this isn't like any kind of success or failure. This is basically what it's supposed to be, which is us trying out these new EIPs on an actively running used system. And as far as I can tell, any kind of scenario that comes out of this, just like with many of the other past testnet forks, is going to be really valuable. The reason everyone went silent is because everyone's digging into the data right now. Everyone's being incredibly nerdy behind the scenes and figuring out what's going on. So yeah, if anyone from the major coin media are here, this is going just fine. And basically, yeah, we're just looking at the data and trying to figure out what's going on.
Absolutely, right. So go ahead, Enix.
How important is it to even for it to eventually come to finality? Because we can troubleshoot what's happening already, right? And so what is sort of the added benefit of it eventually coming to finality? What information do we get from it at a finalized state versus information that we're missing when it's not finalizing?
So from my perspective, what we're gaining from a prolonged non-finality event is a good test case of how the clients behave in a prolonged non-finality event. So on mainnet, this would be like the World War III scenario, right? The internet gets split in half. Half of Ethereum is gone, right? Now what? How long does it take Ethereum to come back from that, right? What's supposed to happen is that the network self-heals. And the last time we did this was during Medasha. Some of the clients improved their memory pressure, CPU pressure on prolonged non-finality. And we will see this time how this is behaving now. Potentially, unless people come back rapidly, then we won't. But if this goes for weeks, I think it's a really good test case to see how are the clients behaving in this scenario, and that again strengthens them for the extremely unlikely event that we do have a complete chain split on mainnet, and the network needs to self-heal. But it is designed to self-heal.
But so
Yeah.
my question, a question that I have is, do we need it to come to finality? Is there information that we are missing that we need from Goerli coming to finality?
I can go.
Probably not.
So finality is pretty important from a consensus layer perspective because it reduces the amount of memory we require to hold context of what's happening. We have to track everything that's non-finalized so that we can understand when we get to that point of finality. that's why finality is important from a technical perspective. From a money perspective, I guess, the reason that it would be important is because until something is finalized, you can't guarantee that that transaction has happened.
I think the
So-
thrust of Nix's question is, if this doesn't finalize for another month, do we need to delay any of the test nets? Is there any data we're missing? We were like, oh, we're not ready.
Well, so we need to know the root cause of why. So is it people that failed to upgrade? In that case, no, we don't care very much. Is it a major client's fallen over? Then yes, actually we do care, because that same sort of scenario may play out on mainnet or another test net. So it really comes back to the root cause. If it is literally just people that haven't upgraded, then yeah, it's not a big problem at all. And it's expected every time we have to do one of these forks, we have people that haven't upgraded and the system copes with it.
Right. And if it's a client bug, then that needs to be fixed and then tested again on
the client bug is the more interesting thing.
Right. Yeah.
and
You've got several clients that are over 30%. So if either any of those have a problem, then we really, really want to know.
so Paul, how quickly would we know about a client bug compared to just people not updating their machine? I would assume it'd be very quick, and that's what I've seen before, but like,
Yeah,
is anything more complicated with this?
Especially on a proof of authority.
you would tend to see a large number of drop, not just a small number drop. So it's harder when it's a smaller client. But for example, I'll pick on Teku because I can talk for them. If Teku was to fall over and that's 15% of mainnet, then all of a sudden things drop by a large percentage, and that becomes very important. If it's a larger client, say Lighthouse, say, I won't say Geth because they've been picked on enough in all of this, but a larger client goes down and it might be enough to drop us out of finality straight away, just one client. That's why everyone's going on about diversity at the moment. Yeah. I'm going to stay out of that topic. I think there's been enough said.
No, and actually, we just got a correction in the chat. So since the merge, Goerli has actually been proof of stake before it was a proof of authority chain like Click Network, which was like an older thing. So now it is proof of stake, which makes it even better in my mind, because we could be like, we're simulating it just like mainnet.
Exactly. Right. So that
it's literally a popularity contest.
Yep.
We also have some safety features built in. So for example, MEV boost or the whole concept of relays is something that exists on mainnet, but we have a concept of a circuit breaker. So in the exact scenario that we're seeing on Goerli, if there's a bunch of missed slots one after the other, we start reducing the complexity of the network. So any node that has MEV boost active on Goerli right now, you might see a message that says circuit breaker activated, which means you wouldn't be using MEV boost anymore, to make it easier for the network to just reduce complexity and try and finalize again.
Is that something that exists only on Goerli, or is that something that exists in general?
It exists in general. So the same thing would happen in mainnet. I think if you have 4 or 5 missed slots in a row, then MEV boost, the circuit breaker gets engaged from the validator directly.
Interesting.
Is there any evidence that a client has failed so far, Perry?
We do see one invalid block, and the clients are disagreeing as to which one of them deem it as valid and which one deem it as invalid. So that's probably the reason we're seeing a chain split, and we're trying to figure out why, what's happened, who's proposed it, and so on.
Maybe, so I don't want to, Hudson, you probably don't want to do the quiz while everybody's not paying attention. Maybe George, are you on the call, George? Yeah. George wanted to sort of introduce an Ethereum cat herders initiative. Maybe you could talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, sure. Just for anyone watching the live stream who doesn't know who Ethereum cat herders are, we're a group of individuals who kind of help out the Ethereum core devs with project management and other forms of communication and coordination, including like helping out with the EIP process and educating others on what's going on the Ethereum network upgrades like Dencun. We have a dedicated page on our website revolving around Dencun as well as Beep and Eep, YouTube playlist around it, and really excited to bring back Learn to Earn. It's our app that we created a couple years ago, bring it back just for Dencun, so people can learn about the EIPs involved in Dencun and take a quiz. And if they get 100% correct, they earn an NFT. So it's a fun, nice way to learn about the upgrade.
Cool, thank you. And while we're sitting here, we have a POAP, and we can put the instructions up for that for anybody watching the YouTube channel. Maybe Remy can steal clobber the screen share for a minute, and then we can go back to Perry afterwards. But we'll put up some instructions on how to mint that POAP. And so basically the instructions are going to be, it's a new POAP product where you can send 0.001 ETH to poap.estaker.eth, and then after the window closes, after the 48-hour window closes, that POAP will automatically get minted to the address that sent 0.001 ETH to that address. And so that's poap.estaker.eth. And we can't see anything you're showing, Remy, if you're showing it. Okay.
It's on the YouTube. It's being shown.
Oh, nice. Okay, I see. I can't see it. I see. Yeah, so I don't know. If anybody who wants that POAP, and then let's go back to Perry's screen share. How are things looking? I really love these testnet live streams because I feel like they often go like this with a lot of time afterwards, where it's sort of just like, and we're just watching and waiting, and people are doing things.
I actually think that was the case for 3 out of 3 merge testnet calls as well. All 3 of them failed. We still did the merge, and then the merge was fine. But that's what we have testnets for. Yeah, it looks like we've identified at least 2 slots that clients disagree on, and we're trying to just narrow down why they disagree. And it looks to be like it's something with state root mismatch. And yeah, we're going to need more time to figure out what actually happened, why it was proposed, why some clients accepted it, some didn't, and so on. And there'll probably be a hot fix coming in that everyone would have to update to.
Cool. So this might be, I mean, this is looking like it's going to be something that's going on for a couple of days, if not weeks. So it's not going to be something that is sort of resolved on this call. And I think that we have seen where it's going to be on this call. Hudson, do you want to give us your questions, and I'll tell you that I know nothing before 2018?
That's perfectly fine. I'm 100% good with that. Let's go, because we have an audience on YouTube. We also have some people in here who might know the answers. So I'm going to go ahead and try to share my screen. All right, is the screen share working? Awesome. Okay, so let me go ahead and make sure I can see
I'm
people.
still seeing Paris thing.
Oh, y'all might need to go to YouTube and mute it and then look at it.
It's Perry's still
It is
sharing, so it's sharing both.
Oh, perfect. Okay, I see it. All right. So it is on YouTube.
Yeah.
If you go to YouTube, you'll be able to see it. Welcome to Ethereum Trivia, the Dencun Testnet Goerli Farewell Edition. I'm Hudson Jameson. I used to host these things and some core developer calls and do other stuff. And now I do this. All right. So The first question, we're going to have 3 questions, maybe some bonuses. And I'm very curious if anyone knows these. They're kind of old because I was like, all right, I'm going on like, a fork, like a stream that's going to do like a testnet fork. Like there's going to be a lot of protocol devs. Maybe they'll know stuff. So here is the first one. Co-developed by the Ethereum Foundation and Consensus and launched in 2015, this heavily anticipated smart contract application allowed for the creation of a Bitcoin SPV light wallet on Ethereum, which allowed users to pay Bitcoin to use Ethereum. What was the project called? Was it ETHBridge, BTC Relay, BTC Lock, or Bridge Over Troubled Waters? If anyone knows in the Zoom call, go ahead and do like a raise your hand thing. I forgot how you do that. I think it's like a reaction. Or you can unmute and just yell the answer. Either way. Also, if no one yells the answer, I'm going to tell Nix to just guess every time, and they will look dumb if they get it wrong.
I think
I'm
it's
gonna
B.
say, okay.
All right, you're going B? All right. So
B.
No, he said B. B as in boy.
the correct answer is BTC Relay. That project was highly anticipated because all the rage was trying to figure out how bridges work. Now we have bridges everywhere. We have too many, I would say. Next up.
Stokes threw his hand up before anybody else he even read it.
Yeah, like Stokes is like already like, oh, it's this. Okay, so this is the one that's less dev and more like everyone can know this. In 2015, at DevCon 1 in London, a popular musical artist released their new single on the Ethereum blockchain. Like on stage, they did this, allowing people to purchase the single with Ether and demonstrate the value of transparently seeing artist earnings in the music industry. Who was the artist? Was it Dylan Francis, Imogen Heap, Arctic Monkeys, or Tim's Biko Band? Anyone have a guess?
Yes. If,
I
if
think
nobody else does,
Yeah, Nolan, what's yours?
I'd go for A, Dylan Francis.
It was Imogen Heap,
Nope.
right?
Imogen Heap.
I think
It was
she might have to
absolutely
take-
Imogen Heap.
Oh, nice.
What you say?
Yes, that's the song, one of the songs they did. They didn't release that song, but this actually gets us to the bonus question. Sponsored by The Tears You Cry as Your Corrupted Node Resyncs from Block Zero. What was the name of the song that was released by Imogen Heap for the Ethereum blockchain? This is probably like way too deep, but anyone know it? Don't look it up. If you look it up, then you're a cheater and I hate you.
Was it The Tears You Cry as Your Corrupted Node Resyncs from Block Zero?
Oh man, that's real close, Marius. That's like super close, but the real answer is Tiny Human. All right.
Man, I should have done that.
Go ahead.
I just read the book that mentioned that we had just talked about.
You literally
It did
did.
actually
With
talk
Laura
about that.
Shin's book.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the more protocol devy one. There's an EIP related to this. Again, don't look it up. If you cheat, then everyone hates you. Okay. In 2017, Peter from the Geth team proposed a small extension via an EIP to the base networking protocol, DevP2P, used by Ethereum at the time. Now it's libp2p, I'm pretty sure. It enabled compression on all message payloads after the initial handshake message. This actually decreased the sync bandwidth by like 40 to 80%, which is wild that we did not do it before 2017. What compression library was used? Was it Snappy compression, Z standard compression, a red black tree, or Verkle? Oh, okay, we got it. Dan, go.
I think
Danny.
Jorg raised his hand. Shimon
wait.
has raised his hand first for the last two questions.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see that. Daniel, go ahead.
If we wrote code for this, are we allowed to answer it?
You know what? Actually, you probably know it really well. Let's try have someone else like fail and we can make fun of them. Okay, who else raised their hand?
Jorg.
York, go for it.
Okay, I'm gonna guess at this and say that Z standard in 2017 is far too forward-looking. We're all old fogies. So A, Snappy.
Wow, very good. And I actually put Z standard because Facebook made Z standard and Google made Snappy. So yes, you are correct. It is Snappy compression. There is a bonus part to this that I may let Dano get if no one else has any idea. This bonus question is brought to you by Vitalik's scratchy, low-quality microphone during developer calls. Great sponsor. Why is the initial handshake message not compressed when we're doing the compression across the dev P2P layer? I can tell the audience is like literally having
Because we're negotiating the compression standard to be used.
Yes, you
It's
actually
optional.
got it. Yes, the handshake. So basically, I actually explained this to someone I know who doesn't know anything about client security, and I was really proud of it. So I'm going to say it again. What we mean by this is like when you're doing a Netflix video and it's like buffering, you have a lot of bandwidth going to your computer, and it can be constrained if it's not coming in the right way. In the same way, like basically Ethereum sync data from one node to another just came in with no compression. It was just the full blocks. So we were like, well, that's kind of dumb because you can do a compression just like you do a .zip file on your computer. So we compressed it from one node to the other node. But during that time, you can't compress the handshake because a handshake is just like you're handshaking a person. You're meeting them and figuring out if you're speaking the same language as them. That's what two clients have to do. Are you on the same version of the dead P2P network layer? So the handshake is not compressed so that you can identify, like, are we speaking the same language? Should I be able to like talk to you and share data? And then everything else is compressed. Dano, how much did I mess that up?
Sounds good to me.
All right. Or anyone else who wants to correct me. Okay, cool. I would say, Marius, you're unmuted. Did I mess up?
No, I'm always unmuted. I'm muted on my microphone.
Perfect. All right.
But it was perfect. You
Excellent.
should join. You should join our team.
I should join again.
One quick correction is that we still use dev P2P on the execution layer. Lib P2P is only used on the consensus layer.
Didn't realize that. Okay, awesome. The more you know. So yeah, that is the last question. RIP to Goerli and hi to Dencun. And this was really fun. Thank you so much for having me on, Nix and the crew. And back to Nix.
Thanks for doing that, Hudson. I don't think we have very much more to cover. What is participation looking at right now? Is it still around 30-something%? So this will go on for days, weeks, whatever. You can follow probably, I don't know, Tim on Twitter to get updates on what's a good Twitter account to follow for updates on this. Eastaker will repost to
I'll give updates when I
whoever
wake
has
up
the updates.
tomorrow. But I don't know when. Yeah, who's going to be awake for the next 8 hours? They're the best person to follow.
Who's in Australia?
Perry.
Yeah.
Perry. Okay, Perry. Let's show Perry's Twitter. Yeah.
All right, Perry Tosh. Follow Perry Tosh on Twitter for updates on this. You've been nominated. Thank you everybody for coming and hanging out and watching the live stream with us. It's been fun. We will definitely be doing another live stream for the mainnet, maybe for Sepolia or Haleshki.
I don't think we care about Sepolia.
Oh, before we go, should we do the POAP one more time for those who missed it, Nix?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Remy, do you want to throw that slide up one more time? So the instructions are send 0.001 ETH to poap.ethstaker.eth. And you don't have to do anything. You don't have to mint anything. There's a 48-hour window where you can send this 0.001 ETH, and you have to send exactly 0.001. So don't send more, don't send less. And then after 48 hours, it'll automatically mint to your address. So there's no code, there's no QR, there's no extra step here. And it works on Arbitrum or mainnet.
But not anywhere else.
Not anywhere else. So Arbitrum or mainnet only. Great. Thank you guys for coming. It's been fun. We'll see you at the next fork.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.